Hey there, fellow DIY and truck camper enthusiasts. If you've ever found yourself scratching your head when it comes to choosing the right struts for your pop-up truck camper, then you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into the nitty-gritty details of calculating the perfect struts for your setup. Whether you're building your own camper or looking to upgrade your current setup, understanding the calculations for the right struts is key to a hassle-free and functional pop-up roof. I'm Kate, and in this video, I'll walk you through the step-by-step process, share some valuable tips, and try to demystify the calculations so you can confidently choose the struts that'll elevate your truck camping experience. So let's get started breaking down the science behind choosing the perfect struts for your pop-up roof. The first thing you're going to want to determine is how high you want your roof to lift. For my pop-up DIY truck build, I wanted to be able to comfortably stand inside the truck camper, and when I was originally building it for a full pop-up rather than the wedge that I ultimately settled on, I was also hoping to be able to sit up in bed to read a book or relax in the evening. So with those requirements in mind, I needed about 28 to 30 inches of roof lift. The second step in determining what type of struts you're going to need for your truck camper build is determining how much your roof is going to weigh. So that can be a little bit hard while you're still building and designing. If you already have your roof built, then this might be easier. You could potentially actually weigh your roof. But for us, we went ahead and we calculated the weight of the individual pieces of wood that we were going to use, the foam, the canvas, and we added that all up together in a Google spreadsheet, and we got around 70 to 80 pounds. Step 3 is to take the weight of your roof and divide it by the number of struts that you're going to use. So in our full pop-up example, we would have 4 gas struts, one near each of the 4 corners of the roof. Since the roof weight was around 80 pounds in this example, we're going to divide 80 by 4, and that's going to give us 20 pounds per strut. Step 4 is to go ahead and look at the available strut options you can find online or in store. A good rule of thumb is to look for a strut that has an extended length that's about 30% longer than your desired roof lift height. So for us, we wanted about 30 inches of lift. We timed that by 130%. So I was looking for a strut with an extended length around 39 inches. And then another good rule of thumb is that you want a strut with a force that's around 15 to 30 pounds more force than is actually the weight of your roof. So for me, the roof is about 80 pounds, and I divided by the 4, so I had about 20 pounds per strut. Since I wanted it to be about 15 to 30 pounds more, I added that to 20. So I was looking for a strut with a force between 35 to 50 pounds of force. I ordered my struts from liftsupportdepot.com. So here I'm going to show you how I searched for it. So we're going to go onto liftsupportdepot.com. We're getting to the strut sizes. You can do a custom search down there. For the minimum extended length, I'm going to put in 35. That is a little bit less than what I'd calculated, but that's just a rule of thumb, 35 there. I'll put in 30 for my minimum force. I personally prefer a ball socket type attachment, so that's just a preference. And then I still had a lot of options, so I put in a maximum force of 60 pounds. So we have a range that's more than what I had calculated from the rule of thumb. I'm going to add some to compare. So the first one I'm putting in the comparison is 36 inches in length when extended, is 20.75 inches when compressed, and has a force of 30 pounds. I'm going to keep scrolling, look for another one with that attachment. Here, this one is 36 inches extended with 40 pounds of force. We'll add that. Then we've got another couple to look at. We could have put that 36 and 61 in, but I didn't. This one goes to 44, so it's a little bit longer with 40 pounds of force. And then we'll add a 44 that's got 50 pounds of force. And we'll start with these. We can add more later if these aren't going to fit what we need. So now we have a nice comparison with these different struts. So you can see them all in a row there. And then the important details down here are the extended length, pressed lengths, and the force that the struts are exerting. All right, now we're going to head to a triangle calculator. The triangle calculator is going to help us determine if the length of the struts that we have chosen are going to work. So I'm going to keep it simple as we get started here, and I'm going to put the compressed length of the strut on side C. I'm going to use a 90-degree angle just to be simple. This won't be our final angle, but we're going to use it here. And then for side A, I'm going to put the lift, the vertical lift that I wanted out of the strut. So for the smaller one, it's 20.75, vertical lift of 30. And you can see that we need side B to be 36.5, which is a little bit longer than the 36 that one goes. So it's probably not going to be the right strut for us. Now we're doing the longer one with 24.25. Side B there is 38.57, and that strut gets to 45 inches in length. So that one is going to work out well for us. We have extra length that we can use. In step 6, we need to determine another aspect of the length of our struts, and that's determining the vertical difference between where we're mounting our struts on the truck camper. So since one of the connections for the strut is going to be on the base kind of the bed platform, and the other one is on the roof itself, there's going to be a couple inches of difference in height between those strut attachment points. In my case, I had about 4 inches of difference between the strut attachment points. So once I know that, I head back to the triangle calculator, and now we're going to determine the actual true triangle base length if we were using a 90-degree angle. Because again, our strut's being mounted at a slant, it won't be flat across my truck camper. So now I know that I'm trying to use the longer strut, so that's the 24.25. It's going to be at an angle, so we're going to make that side B. We're going to put in our vertical difference between the strut mounting points, and that's 4. And now you can see that the actual base of a triangle is going to be 23.918. In step 8, I'm going to take that information and put it into a full calculation of the total height with the vertical lift difference between the struts, as well as the 30 inches of lift that I want the roof to go up. And now I can use that shorter base length with a 90-degree angle and the 34 for the total rise. And side B here has to be empty so it can calculate it. And you can see that my strut is going to need to be able to extend to 41.47 inches, which is good because that 44-inch long strut will work. And now I have a very important angle, and that's the angle that the strut's going to be at when my roof is fully extended. Since I have that angle, I can now go ahead and use a force calculator to help me determine the vertical force of the struts while my roof is up. So I go ahead and I just found a random calculator on the internet. I'm going to start by calculating the force if I was using the 40-pound struts. And I've put that 40-pound force at the top. I use that 54.875 degree angle, so that's the angle the strut's going to be at. And I plug that in there in the angle 1 degree. We don't need to worry about force 2. We don't have a force 2 we're worrying about. And then down here, the calculator is going to tell me both the horizontal and vertical force components if I was using a 40-pound strut. So you can see that 32.72 is going to be the one we're most concerned about. Since I'm still trying to decide between the 40 and 50-pound struts, I'm going to put the 50-pound one in as well. And you can see that that one has a 40.89 vertical force component at that angle. Okay, so now I'm just going to do a couple of extra calculations because, again, I'm going to be using 4 of these struts for a full pop-up. And so for a full pop-up, if I times 32.72 times 4, I would have a total of 130.88 pounds of vertical force. If I use the 50-pound strut, I would have 163 roughly pounds of total vertical force. So the first check that I need to do is that those total vertical forces are more than the weight of my roof, which they are. My roof weight is 80 pounds, so I have more force than I have weight of roof. That means that my roof will stay up when it's up. But I also need to care about how much weight I have to pull down to get the roof back down and compressed. And so here, if I take those total vertical forces minus 80 pounds, for the 40-pound struts, I get 50.88 pounds. For the 50-pound struts, I'd have to pull down 83.5 pounds. For me personally, 50 pounds pulled down is pretty doable. I could do 83.5, but I'd like it to be a little bit less. So I think those 40-pound struts are going to be the better struts for me. But there's one more step that I have to consider when I'm choosing the force of my struts. I need to know how much force is needed to push my roof up. So now I want to calculate the vertical force that my struts are exerting when my roof is down. So now I need to go back to that smaller triangle I calculated, which is the angle that the compressed strut is at when the roof is closed. And so in my example, that was 9.49. We're going to go ahead and put that in the calculator. And I get 6.6 pounds of vertical force. So when I first start to lift that roof up, each strut is only helping lift 6.6 pounds. If I times that by 4, that's 26.4. And then the total roof weight is 80 pounds. So if the struts are helping lift 26.4 of that, I still have to lift 53.6 pounds to get the roof started. Now, luckily, in the full pop-up, I don't have to lift the entire thing at once. I can start to get the back started and then do the front. So really, I'm only doing 20 to 30 pounds at a time, and that's doable for me. So I don't have to upgrade to those 50-pound struts. The 40-pound struts are going to be enough. Then in step 11, I'm going to go back to the website, confirm that this is the strut I want, that the 44-inch length with a compressed length of 24.25 and a force of 40 pounds is the right one for me. So I went ahead and I ordered 4 of those when I was designing the full pop-up build. Luckily, when I converted to a wedge, I was just lifting half the roof, and the same struts work really well when I use just 2 of them for lifting half the roof. Now, don't forget that there are other considerations. Roof weight is great, but be aware that if you want to mount things on that, things could change. So if you want your roof to stay up while you put things on it, you might need stronger struts, more force. And then also temperature will affect your struts. So I have less vertical force when it's cold out. And I really did notice that when it got down below freezing, when I was on my road trip up to Alaska. I did have a little bit of issue that I had to get the roof lifted further before the struts would take over, helping me lift it the rest of the way up. So keep those things in mind. Thank you so much for watching today. I really appreciate all of your support. Your likes and subscribes mean a great deal to me. And I hope that this video was helpful for some of you in designing and figuring out the strut setup for your DIY truck camper build. I'm not an expert. I am just an amateur builder, and this is how I did my calculations. So if you have better suggestions and tips and tricks you want to leave in the comments below, please do that. We'd all love to learn from the expertise of others.